Hi everyone, it's Michael, and it's time for the May 2019 Orchid Collection Update. I am in such better spirits than I was for the April Orchid Collection Update just because things have really bounced back from a very traumatic month, and that's one of the most remarkable things about these plants. They are infinitely more resilient than we give them credit for. So I learned the lessons, I implemented change, and I'm so happy to see a real payoff on that. And I think that's really an important lesson to discuss. As orchid growers, we all have to understand one really important reality. Being an orchid grower is an exercise in resilience, so you can never let the trauma of a lesson supersede your ability to learn that lesson. Yes, it was very sad that everything got set back. Yes, it's very sad that I lost flower spikes. Yes, a lot of these things are very disheartening. But you just gotta push forward. You gotta get over it, you gotta get back up, and you just gotta push forward. So, I hope that's inspiring to you. I didn't feel super inspired last month. It's a touch and go process, but here I am and I'm feeling great. So let's talk about what I'm doing differently and what those lessons really were. So now when I travel, because last month was another crazy month of travel for me, I ensure that Justin opens the window for at least 2 to 3 hours every single day to ensure that stagnant air is moving out and that we have a lot of good quality fresh air in the apartment. It doesn't matter if the humidity is perfect, if it's stagnant air, it's not good for the plants. Also, it becomes a breeding ground for bacterial rot. The other big lesson that I learned is that slow release fertilizer is not for all of my plants, but remarkably, it is for a lot of my plants. So I'm gonna do a separate video to really recap which plants seem to have really embraced slow release fertilizer, which plants haven't, and kind of my theories around why that is. So that'll be a separate video that'll come next month, but I am really going through the process of repotting and removing that slow release fertilizer from many of them. And the signals that it doesn't like it are really clear. The last thing is I'm continuing to flush once to twice a month using reverse osmosis water, all of the orchids, but I am doing something slightly different. I'm watering with a new bottle, and that may seem really minor, but it's actually quite significant. So I'm excited because this is going to be in my orchid store eventually. Thank you so much for your patience, guys. I work all the time, so that's why it's taken me so long to launch it, but it's coming very, very soon. But I invested in a bunch of these bottles. And what I love about them is they have their measurements right on the bottle themselves. So before, when I would mix up a batch of nutrient solution, I would do it in this big container, right? And so that's terribly non-specific because you look at my Catasetums, they needed a higher concentration of nutrients. You look at my Paphiopedilums, they need a lower concentration of nutrients. You get what I'm saying. Every plant needs a slightly different mixture of nutrients. But when I would mix up one big batch of nutrient solution, it was kind of inefficient because I kind of had to go towards the lowest common denominator. This allows me to make custom batches in small batches based off of exactly what I need. So I've adjusted my formula and I've adjusted exactly how much fertilizer I'm using per each bottle. So I actually have it down to drops per each type of plant, which is really crazy. It allows me to get a lot more refined and a lot more specific. So again, I will outline that specific process in a separate video, but I do want to let you know that that's what I'm doing and it has really, really been paying off. The last thing that I'm doing differently this month that I really want to discuss is I am moving my plants around quite a bit. And that's because I'm discovering that the general rules of thumb with light levels are not exactly accurate. And I don't know if this is just a me phenomenon or if this is true for other people, but I am really discovering that my Phalaenopsis orchids can take a lot more light than I thought they could. I'm discovering that my Oncidiums can take a lot less light than I thought they needed. Now I'm making these adjustments because I'm seeing a lot of my plants go into spike in zones that are not receiving the standard amount of light outlined in their general care parameters. So I'm beginning to really explore diversifying light levels. It really opens up a lot of opportunities for me because I'm dealing with a small apartment, so I have very limited places to put things, but knowing that I can really manipulate and adjust the light levels for different plants more than I have been able to in the past could potentially open up a whole world of possibilities for me as an urban orchid grower. Again, I'm not growing in a greenhouse, I'm growing in an apartment. So I've talked long enough now. Let's go ahead and jump in and start talking through the plants that something new, different, and interesting is happening with this month.
All right, friends, let's go ahead and start with number 3 in the collection. Now, number 3 was the one that I divided. Again, I will link that video below. It did very, very poorly. It's been doing super poorly because I also repotted it with slow release fertilizer and it hated it. So finally, I decided to unpot it and repot it. I discovered that the one extra pseudobulb that was attached to it was slowly starting to rot. It also looked like something had burrowed into that pseudobulb, which really freaked me out. So I went ahead and removed it. I hope it's able to bounce back. It does appear to have a new growth coming in right there at the base. So hopefully it'll do a lot better now that it is in a cleaner, less nutrient-filled environment, but we will see. Now on to number 7. Now you'll notice this one still has not been unpotted. Now this one is not one of the ones that has enjoyed the slow release fertilizer. I think in part because this was in direct sunlight and it really caused those slow release pellets to explode and then release all of their nutrients at once. And the interesting thing is this guy didn't bloom for me on schedule as it usually does every year. But what it's doing right now is kind of interesting. If I take you up here, look, it's making a keiki for the very first time in its entire existence. And that keiki has a flower spike coming off of it, which is super, super interesting. But I do think it's an indicator that things aren't as they should be. So I'm going to get this repotted ASAP and hopefully it'll bounce back really quickly. Now we're going to move on to number 11. 11's not one that I showcase super often. This is my Psychopsis Mendenhall Hildos because it hasn't really ever done anything for a very long time. But it is suddenly, look how vivid the leaf color is. Look how turgid the leaves are. It hasn't been like this ever since I've had it. What I'm showing you is the fact that it really does actually seem to love the slow release fertilizer that is in this container. So that's a really positive sign. I did not expect it, but I do think this one likes the slow release fertilizer. Now on to number 13. What I really want to showcase here is it is really doing great. The dieback has stopped. As long as I sustain moving air around it and I sustain regular flushing, more regular than once to twice a month. This one I'll flush maybe 4 times a month, and it seems to be doing really well. It's putting out new leaves on all of the new growths, which is really positive. So hopefully the momentum continues. This one also, oddly, seems to really enjoy slow release fertilizer. It's been doing really, really well with that present in the grow system. Now I am going to get this repotted just because you can see the old sphagnum moss is really starting to deteriorate and slip through the cracks. So I'm going to get it repotted. It was also the one that I did the air bubbler experiment with forever ago. So I need to actually get that air bubbler out of there. But this one will be repotted and hopefully it continues to sustain that really positive momentum. Now we're going to move on to number 16. This is my Dapper Dots Nicolasa tabaris Catasetum. And look at this beast. Damn, girl, you so big. So for a second I got super excited because I thought it was trying again to give me flower spikes because it put out this growth and it's putting out this growth in the dead center. I'm confused because I've never, ever had my Catasetum put out this many new growths. But I also think that because I did not divide this into single bulb divisions, I think this is what happens. So it is just putting out growth after growth after growth. You can see where the flower spike died off last month, which was super sad. But again, choosing to move forward and learn the lesson. So this one seems to be doing really, really well, and I'm excited to see what will come of this. I'm shooting this one out of sequence. This is number 17, my Betty May Steele Carmela Ascocenda. And this one has been doing so phenomenally well ever since I took it out of semi-hydro and put it into classic basket culture. And if you didn't see that video, I will link it below. But look at all these new root tips. This one just cannot be tamed. This one cannot be stopped. It has just responded so positively. And actually, if I take you into the basket, you can see it's gripping in there. It's growing new growths everywhere. It really is getting comfortable in the basket and just doing its thing. So this one seems to really love basket culture. Number 25. This is my Epidendrum Green Hornet. And this one was also potted with slow release fertilizer. I've already gotten it repotted because here's really the biggest symptom of the slow release fertilizer not going well. Do you see how the new growths are getting burned? They are just too sensitive to it. And that one started to happen there, and it also started to happen, I'm not sure where else it was. But it gave me a pretty clear signal that it does not like the slow release fertilizer. But I think now it's in a cleaner environment. It's going to be a lot happier. And you can see over here inside of that sheath, there is a flower spike starting to develop. So that's very exciting. Now on to number 26. This is my Aloha stellar, and also another one that does not like the slow release fertilizer. You can't really tell because the leaves have already fallen off at the base of each of the new growths. But they blackened and died off, and it's definitely from the slow release fertilizer. I've had this one for a while. I'm super familiar with its growth pattern. And even though it has 2 new growths and they seem to be doing great, you can see that there's some spotting that has never happened on it before. And that is definitely a product of too much nutrient solution in the grow container. So this is another one that I will get repotted shortly. Now we're going to jump to number 28. This is my Cattleya Purple Blue Hawaii, and just look at her go. Yes, girl. I'm so proud of her, and I'm so happy she's doing so well after the division. If you guys didn't see the video about the divisions from number 28, I will link it below. They are all doing super well, but these ones are just doing so well, the divisions and the mother plant. So take a look. That new growth is very, very new. And then down here, it's putting out another new growth. I'm gonna have to lift up its leaf so you can see. But look at all these beautiful new green root tips. It is just beginning to venture down into the medium and start to really support itself and use its actual reservoir. So that's amazing and very positive. Now we're gonna go to, I think this is number 31. No, that's 29. This is my Eulophia petersi. And I purchased stuff to repot this into succulent mix. And then all of a sudden, the new growth started to do really, really well. You can actually see it's already exceeding last year's growth. I do think I'm going to let it get a little bit more established before I repot it. I'm definitely going to repot it, but it seems to have some positive momentum right now, and I'm not trying to mess with it. And now we're going to talk about number 34. This is my Ludicea discolor that had just been in bloom for roughly 4 months. The thing I want to showcase here is two things, actually. I did not repot it into a wide, short container, as I said I was going to, and as many of you recommended, because this one just seems to be happy to grow pendant. And I think the longer I let it grow like this, it might just turn into a beautiful chandelier. I think that's what's going to happen. Plus, as soon as I finally clipped off the flower spike, because the flower spike started to dry up, it immediately started developing beautiful leaves on its new growths. So I'm so excited to see this continue to develop. So now we are on to number 36. This is my Fred Clark Yara After Dark SVO Black Pearl. And thank you so much for those who responded on my problem children video where I showcased the plants that I'm really struggling with. A lot of you directed me to Miss Orchid Girl's video about her mineral oil solution, or the paraffin oil solution. So I actually tried it. I treated it one time. I think I'm going to treat it one more time to make sure that the spider mites are cared for. I do see a few that have come out of the woodwork, but I think it's working. So thank you so much for that. I hope it fully resolves. Now we're going to jump to number 44. This is one of the seedlings. This is one of the 3 remaining seedlings from my seedling experiment. And if you haven't seen that video, I'll link it below. This one is doing really, really well, but kind of accidentally. And it's because I knocked this container off. It unpotted itself, so I had to repot it. And as soon as I repotted it, you guys look, it started putting out new roots everywhere, and even in the container too. And I think it's because, and this is one of the big lessons that I'm learning this year, LECA is not inert. It does hold things. It doesn't stay completely neutral. So I think I've always assumed that it is completely neutral. So you assume that flushing it regularly is going to keep it that way. But I do think that these periodically need to be repotted. I originally embraced semi-hydroponics because I believed it was, oh, this is a system where I'll never ever have to repot, but it is not that way. I do still prefer to growing in classic medium, but it isn't without its problems. And I think that's what this one has taught me. On to number 46. This is my mini Oncidium Twinkle White Pink, and you can see this one also does not like the slow release fertilizer. It's dying off bulbs. It's starting to splotch here and there. So I am also going to get this one repotted ASAP. Now I'm going to take you to number 48. Similar story here. This is my Cymbidium Murasaki sinense, and you can see from all of this spotting, it was doing so well, but that slow release fertilizer is clearly just too much. So this is another one that is going to get repotted and does not appear to care for slow release fertilizer. Now I'm shooting this portion fully out of sequence because I didn't want to move all 5 of them, but these are my white wedding day Phalaenopsis orchids. These are actually orchids that were at Justin and I's wedding reception, and they are very, very meaningful to me. But right over here, you'll see a flower spike forming at the base of this one. Now that's super exciting because this is the first time they have ever spiked for me, but what's more exciting is the fact that these 5 orchids have done everything in perfect synchrony. So I think that these are probably all going to start spiking here in a moment. Now, to be perfectly honest with you, I don't want 5 white Phalaenopsis orchids. I don't need that many. So I'm probably going to put these in the store eventually, but I would love to have just one display of all 5 of them cascading their blooms downward, because since they're not going to be spiked, I think that they're going to cascade all downward towards the light. And I think that'll be really beautiful and such a gorgeous reminder of that beautiful day and that beautiful event. It's so interesting how orchids have the capacity to tie into those really life-changing moments. So I'm just excited to see what happens from here on number 51. Now we're going to jump to number 54. This is my Cattleya Volcano Prince, and geez, you guys, I called it. I said that this one was going to be number 28 part 2. This one is just as vigorous. This one is just as successful. And this one has actually metabolized and used that slow release fertilizer exceptionally well. Look at these new growths. Look how big there are. There's 1, 2, 3, and 4.
I don't know if you guys can see all of them, but this one has done so well. It is so happy. It is so turgid. Like, you guys, it is a happy, happy plant. So I'm really, really looking forward to seeing this one in bloom. I've never seen it in bloom. I didn't buy it in bloom, but I think it's coming, and I think it's coming soon. So keep watching. Now we're going to jump to number 56. Oh my gosh, you guys, I am just so happy. The Miltonia Sunset is my favorite orchid. It always has been my favorite orchid, and this just reaffirms it. This one had just a miracle turnover. It's been so, so happy. It really put down a beautiful new root system super, super quickly after repotting. It has a new growth coming in at the base right here, which is super exciting. It's obviously currently in bloom. It has another bloom on the way on this side. Now, Miltonia Sunsets can actually put out 5 flowers per spike, but since this is its first time blooming since being repotted into semi-hydro, I do think it's totally to be expected and totally reasonable that it is only putting out a few blooms. So that is number 56. I'm just so pleased. She's so beautiful, and she's been in bloom for a while now, so very, very happy about that. Now we're going to jump from number 56 up to number 57 up here. This is my beautiful No ID Vanda, and what I really want to showcase, actually I'm going to get up on a chair here, is look at these new roots coming in, you guys. This one oddly took a lot longer than my Ascocenda down here to put out new roots, but it is slowly but surely starting to throw out these little nubs and really get acclimated in her environment. I will eventually do a Vanda orchid care video because I wanted to make sure that I understood best practices before I started educating people on what I thought best practices were. But this one is just doing so, so well. You can see that new leaf, it's just happy. And I really think this one is going to do very, very well over time, especially once that root system becomes more established. Now we're gonna come down and jump to number 58. This is my Coryanthes macrantha X Self. And look at this new growth. Look how beautiful it is. You guys saw last month when it was in bloom. Well, guess what? We got another flower spike coming in. I can't believe that this is doing so well for me. I thought this was going to be the most challenging plant, but it's actually done so phenomenally well so far, and I just really hope it stays on that path. I do need to repot it soon, just because they can throw out flower spikes anywhere in the container. There may very well be actually more flower spikes in here trying to get out. So I need to put it in something with an open slat. I need to put it in a basket. I need to put it in a semi-hydroponic airy container or something like that. I need to figure out what I'm gonna do with this, but I just don't wanna mess with it right now because it's just doing so well. Okay, so that is number 58. More good news. We're gonna go on to number 59. You may remember I was so disappointed. I repotted this at the wrong time of year. This is my Cloesia Rebecca Northern, Maccabi, and now look at it, you guys. It totally got covered in white mold. It just wasn't doing well. The new growth died off. And then I just continued flushing because I knew I had already made contact with water. I knew that like drying it back out wasn't really gonna help anything. So I just continued flushing regularly and hoped for the best. And I thought, okay, well, this is either gonna die or it's gonna revive itself. And look, there it is, throwing out a brand new growth, super happy, super healthy. And I'm just so excited to see where this goes. It's using its nutrient solution really, really effectively. It actually does have slow release fertilizer in the container already, and it seems to be doing just fine. So, I'm really curious to see where things go from this point. I have wanted this orchid for so long, and the blooms are so, so beautiful to me in pictures. So if I can get this to flower for me, I will just be so thrilled. Sometimes these resurrection stories are the happiest stories of all. So we'll see what happens. Now we're gonna jump to number 61. This is my Potinara Miki Kobayashi D. And this one is doing also so well. I'm telling you, you guys, it's so unexpected, but Cattleya types do so well for me. So well, in fact, that this one just got repotted into semi-hydro recently. You can see it's already putting down a bunch of new roots. Some of them are venturing into the medium. I will definitely have to repot this and remove some of those dead and decaying roots. There is a lot of decay in that container, which is to be expected, but that can actually set the plant back as it continues to develop. But what I want to showcase is this may very well be the fastest turnaround time for repotting and getting something to rebloom. Look at this. It has a flower spike coming in off of one of the new growths that just started. So I just can't wrap my mind around the fact that it did it this quickly, but I'm really hoping that this comes to fruition really soon and we all get to celebrate together. And last but not least, we're gonna jump to my Epilelio Cattleya. This is my Volcano Trick Paradise, and in classic Cattleya fashion, you guys, look at how well this one is doing. This one has adapted so quickly. This one is just thriving everywhere in the container. New roots everywhere, wrapping the container. It just couldn't be more pleased with its life.
So I am so thrilled about this. And you can see the biggest of the new growths is right here. And I think this one will be in flower for me very soon, and that'll be a very quick turnaround time too. So this looks like it's hot on the heels of number 61. They are going to be so happy, so pleased all together, and I'm really excited to see what comes from here. I feel so grateful for this being such a successful month because last month wasn't, but I look forward to all of the magic that is to come, and I will, of course, keep you fully posted. Thank you guys so much for choosing to spend your time with me. If you have any questions, concerns, or feedback, go ahead and leave it in the comment section below. And always be sure to support each other in the comment section, be kind to one another, and I will talk to you very soon. Have a great day, guys. Bye.